Thank you very much for coming today. Today, I speak based on the Bhagavad-Gita, and we'll talk about the principle of how God and God's actions in this world, when we say God protects. So how does Krishna protect? What does God's protection mean? And how does that protection work about? So many times, if we look at scripture, if we look at Shastra, there are two kinds of stories that are discussed. There are some stories in scriptures, there are some stories which majority or those which are remembered are the stories of protection. To say how Draupadi was protected by the Lord, or how Arjuna was victorious in the Kurukshetra war. But then, in the scriptures, there are also stories where there is devastation. Arjuna, although surrendering to Krishna and although being faithful and devoted, still lost his son Abhimanyu. So, what does Krishna's protection mean? And how does Krishna protect us? So, I'll use three principles over here to explain that there is Prakriti, then there is Vikruti, and there is Sanskriti. So Prakriti, Vikruti, and Sanskriti. Prakriti means, what does the word Prakriti literally mean? Nature. What does Sanskriti mean? Sanskriti is Sanskar, culture. And what is Vikruti? So we have nature, we have culture, and we have vulture. Well, yeah, so it's perversity. So the vulture, sometimes it's like a vulture culture is the word that sometimes use. Like vulture may go high up, but from there it just looks for corpses. It doesn't look for any beautiful sight that can be seen from high up in the sky. It looks for where I can find dead flesh so that I can eat it. So now, when we use the word, like in the Mahabharata, there's a sentence that Dharmo Rakshit Dharmata. That those who are followers of Dharma will be protected by Dharma. The Bhagavad-Gita is also a search for Dharma. Arjuna is asking Krishna, Pruchami Tvam Dharma Sammudha Chetaha. He's asking, what is Dharma? So now Dharma has many different meanings. And I'll focus on one meaning and then we will see how other meanings fall within that. Dharma essentially means harmonious belonging. That whatever we belong to, we belong in a harmonious way. So in every situation, we will have some dharma. For example, if say now we are having a spiritual talk. So when we are having this talk, at that time, my dharma, the way I belong harmoniously, if I am playing the role of a teacher, is that I prepare the subject and I am ready to speak it properly. And the dharma for those who are participating over here is that they come and join. That they participate in a, say, you're attentive, you're participating. Now, if suddenly somebody's phone starts ringing very loudly, then that's an annoyance. Now, if all of you are sitting together, right now, many of you may know each other, some of you may not know each other, but all of you are reasonably confident that the person sitting next to you is not going to suddenly turn upon you and slap you in the face. Don't look at the person next to you. Now, is that possible? Well, you could say anything is possible. But we understand that if somebody has come here for a spiritual talk, they will have enough discipline, enough awareness of situation, that they will behave in a proper way. So, whichever larger unit we belong to, there has to be harmony. Hmm? So, we need to belong in a harmonious way. So, for example, if you're driving on a road, then we are being a part of the road transport system. And our dharma will be to follow the rules of traffic. So we belong in a harmonious way. So dharma in that sense has two components to it. There is individual and there is social. So individual dharma means that I need to belong in a harmonious way. And when I belong in a harmonious way, the society, the larger unit to which I am belonging, should also reward me appropriately. So we follow the traffic rules, but then those who are overseeing the traffic rules should also be just. That means if somebody breaks the law, then they should pull them over, they should fine them, they should maybe take away their license, arrest them. But if somebody is not breaking the rules and still they arrest them, that will be a problem. Sometimes discrimination happens against certain groups of people. So dharma is both individual and social. For harmonious belonging to be possible, there has to be all the components, the individual and the collective, should work properly. Now, if we consider in the Bhagavad-Gita itself, both meanings of dharma are seen. In 2.7, Krishna is being asked by Arjuna, Pruchhami tvam dharma sammuna chetaha. I want to know what is dharma. It's interesting, he is not just asking what is mama dharma. What is my dharma? That's of course the implied question, but he's asking a more universal question. What is dharma? What is the right thing to do? Now when Krishna later on speaks in the Bhagavad Gita in the 4th chapter in the famous verses which describe the avatar, Dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So now when he says, I come to establish dharma, what does that mean? Does it mean when Krishna comes, everybody will follow dharma at that time? Well, no, there will always be people who will misuse their freedom. But at least the social order is made in such a way that those who are just, those who are virtuous are rewarded, and those who are vicious are punished. So when Krishna comes to establish dharma, that's at a collective level. Now, even Krishna does not force Duryodhana to become dharmic. He persuades him and doesn't listen. So dharma has a voluntary aspect to it. Like the police cannot force people to follow the traffic rules. They don't follow the traffic rules, there will be consequences. So there are, in general, in life there are choices and there are consequences. Now, normally speaking, if there is dharma in society, if there is virtue and goodness in society, then positive choices will lead to positive consequences. If somebody is helpful, kind, and then they will be appreciated, they will be praised. If somebody is mean, somebody is cruel, they will be criticized, they will be condemned. So negative actions will have negative consequences. But when there is adharma in society, what do you think happens? What do you think happens? Positive actions lead to negative consequences. Somebody who is kind and helpful, that person gets exploited. That person gets abused, mistreated, taken for a ride. On the other hand, if there is negative, then what happens? There are positive results of that. Somebody, for example, is mean and cruel and exploitative. They say, it's clever. That's not clever, that's terrible. Isn't it? So sometimes, see, we all know there are certain destructive habits. If taking drinking alcohol, I say in the Western world, the general idea is that drink but don't become drunk. That's the idea. In fact, there was a Western thinker, European thinker, who said, the taste of wine is the proof that God loves us. If God did not exist and God did not love us, how could something as tasty as wine exist? There are so many tasty things in the world. Why fixate on that? But the point is that normally, if a person is disciplined, regulated, if somebody says, oh, I don't drink, then yeah, you're a disciplined person, you're a good person, regulated person. That's how society should be. But if somebody doesn't drink and say in college, sometimes kids tease each other, you are just a baby drinking your mother's milk. When will you grow up? As if growing up means drinking alcohol. So when somebody is doing something good and they are mocked for that, they are ridiculed for that, that is one sign of adharma. Similarly, if somebody does bad, sometimes people have drinking competitions. Who can drink more? And if you drink more and more and still you act as if you're sober. Wow, drink doesn't affect you at all. So that's drinking, you're taking poison into your body. So adharma is not just some religious morality given by somebody, and if you don't follow that, that's adharma. Yes, religious morality is there, but dharma is a universal principle of existence. That we all need to belong to whatever unit we are a part of. And we need to belong in the proper way. And if we belong in the proper way, then we should be rewarded for that. So that is the principle of dharma. So now, if we look at this, dharma means harmonious belonging. Now let's go back to three terms I use: Prakriti, Sanskriti, and Vikriti. Now, what is Prakriti? Now, each of these levels have dharma. In Prakriti, the dharma means the harmonious way of belonging, is might is right. This is the rule of nature. The rule of nature is survival of the fittest. Now, of course, it is true, even the fittest don't survive. Everybody dies eventually. However, what Darwin talked about is not entirely wrong. It's not what he talked about. It's a basic fact of nature. That in nature, might is right. So in nature, if a deer can't run as fast as a tiger chasing it, what will happen? The deer will die. Now, the deer may say, I'm harmless, I've never hurt anyone. Yeah, it doesn't matter. In this case, the relevant might is speed. Now, if the tiger or the lion doesn't run fast enough, the deer sneaks away. You deer, how dare you run away from me? I am the king of the forest. Okay, you are the king, but I am going to run away. Krishna says, Mruganam Mrugendroham. Among animals, I am the king. He talks about lion. But still, it doesn't matter. In nature, the rule is might is right. So whoever has strength, that person wins. In Hindi, there is a saying, Jiski lathi, uski bhais. So the idea is, this is a basic rule of nature. So Prakriti, that's why we say there's a law of the jungle. And especially now, if in a society, law and order breaks down, if say the police stop functioning, if in a society the criminals take charge, then what happens? There's a law of the jungle. Then if there are criminals in charge in society, they will not care who is law abiding, who is law breaking. All that they will say is, who has wealth, let's steal the wealth from them. So basically, society can also degenerate to the level of animal world. That is, human society can also become existing at the level of the jungle. At the level of the jungle, it is might is right. So this is Prakriti. In Prakriti, the dharma is might is right. As in the language of our old friend, it's survival of the fittest. So now, interestingly, there is Sanskriti. Sanskriti means culture. Now, sometimes you think Sanskriti means wearing a particular kind of clothes, eating a particular kind of food, putting particular kind of markings on our head. Well, these are all parts of Sanskriti, but they're not the essence. The essence of Sanskriti is that the dharma here changes. Dharma means the harmonious way of belonging is here might plus virtue is right. Might plus virtue is right. Now it's interesting that here also might is important. See, Sanskriti is built on Prakriti. Sanskriti does not reject Prakriti. So what does it mean? Here it is not survival of the fittest. It is often sacrifice by the fittest. Sanskriti means sacrifice by the fittest. So what does sacrifice by the fittest mean? That it means that if, say, there's a fire, in Los Angeles there's a horrible fire a couple of months ago. A devastating loss happened. Now at that time, there are trained firefighters and they are expected to be fitter than everyone else. And then they could say that, the fire is happening in their home, let it burn. No, they are fit, they are expected to run into the fire and save those who are in danger. So in Sanskriti, we don't leave it to survival of the fittest. If you are unfit, you die. Even if you are unfit, the fit will come to help. In Sanskriti means, say, if a person is blind and is trying to cross the road. It is not that people with eyes push that person, get out of our way. Sanskriti means those who have eyes will help that person. It is, maybe they are in a hurry, but no. Okay, this person is not as fit as I am. Let me help this person. So now still, the law of nature is still there. What is the law of nature? That the stronger people will be stronger. The stronger people will still be right. If a person is very weak and that person goes into a burning fire to save someone else, that person will not be able to lift anyone. That person will not be able to walk out themselves also. If a person can't swim and that person says, I'll save someone who is drowning, they will not save someone who is drowning. Somebody will have to save them when they start drowning. So might remains the defining reality in the world. The might can be different kinds of might. It can be physical strength, it can be skill, it can be intellectual power. So, for example, if terrorists have AK-47s and the police have simple pistols, now what is going to happen? Who is going to win? The terrorists are going to win. So might is still going to be right. Nobody can change that principle in life. Might is right. Even the Pandavas in the Mahabharata, as long as they didn't have power, they suffered. When they didn't have power, Bhima was poisoned. When they didn't have power, then they were attempted to be burnt alive. It was eventually when they married Draupadi, then an alliance was formed with another powerful king. And that's when Dhritarashtra had to take their claim for kingship seriously. And even then, Dhritarashtra tried to weasel a way out by giving them a barren half of the kingdom. But the point is that might is right is a fundamental principle of existence. But cultured society will be where there is Sanskriti. It is not just might is right. It is might plus virtue. That's why Krishna says two things indicating this in 7th chapter. In the 10th, 11th verse, he talks about Dharma aviruddho bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshava. And he also says that balam balavatam chaha kama raga vivarjitam. So bala will be there, everyone. But that bala is to be recommended, which is not driven by selfish desire. Kama raga vivarjitam. So Sanskriti is where might plus virtue is right. Where those who are virtuous are protected by those who are might. Where the strength is used in the service of virtue. Now, as contrasted with this, so there is Prakriti and there is Sanskriti. Now, if we had survival of the fittest as the rule in human society, it is partly a rule in human society, no doubt. But it cannot entirely be the governing principle. In a family, say if one child is not very intelligent, maybe the child is not very competent, then what happens? Other family members take care of that child. We say that we cannot take care lifelong, and each person has to learn to be responsible. But the idea is that in any group of people where there is a sense of community, if one person is in trouble, we don't say that's, oh, you are unfit. Yes, it's your problem. No, others come to them. That is Sanskriti. So, now, as contrasted with this, there is Vikruti. Now, in Vikruti, what happens? Might plus vice is right. When there is Vikruti in society, might and strength is used for the protection and perpetuation of vice. For selfishness, for anger, for greed, for lust. So, that is Vikruti. So, when Krishna says, Dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshava. This is kama, that can mean desire in general, and it can mean sexual desire in particular. Now, kama needs to be in the pursuit of dharma. Kama should be engaged in a way that a person can belong harmoniously. Belong harmoniously means what? That kama is directed within the institution of marriage. But when that is not there, Vikruti is that a person who has lust, that person gains might, and that person does anything and everything. Now that might could be physical power by which they overpower others. That might could be charming word that they speak. That might could be the looks that they have by which they seduce others, delude others. So Ravan's abduction of Sita, that is Vikruti, where might plus vice becomes right. Now, when there is Vikruti in society, then the vicious are rewarded. Like I said, here what happens is, dharma is, when we do positive, we get positive. When we do negative, we get negative. But adharma is when we do positive and get negative. We do negative and we get positive. So, this is the situation of adharma. And this adharma is where Vikruti becomes dominant. So, now in every society, we consider that Prakriti is the default reality. And from Prakriti, we can rise to Sanskriti, or we can go down to Vikruti. Now, this is a choice for society, but this is a choice for every individual and at every moment. Sometimes it's in a big way, sometimes it's in a small way. Say, now we are hungry, and say there are gulab jamuns. There are 10 guests and there are 10 gulab jamuns. Now, we all want to enjoy good food. So, Prakriti means I'm hungry, I want to eat. Sanskriti would mean, okay, even if I get first to the fridge, I can't eat all the gulab jamuns. I should divide it equally. Vikruti means that I gobble down as much as I can and I hide the remaining and say, oh, there are no gulab jamuns today. So that would be Vikruti. So basically, for us, at each moment there is a choice. For example, the words we speak. Sometimes, if we have power, we can dominate others and we can force them to do what we want them to. Now, that having that power, that authority, that is Prakriti. But we could use it to educate others. Okay, this is the right thing to do, and therefore you should do it. Or we could use it to exploit others. If you don't do this, I'll destroy you. So this choice between from Prakriti to Sanskriti or Vikruti, that is a choice we have to make at every moment. Now, Dharma, as I said, Dharma means harmonious belonging. I'll make 2 more points and then we'll open for question answers. And each of these points will take 1.5 hours each. No. So the Dharma, as I said, it means harmonious belonging. So each one of us belongs to many units. So for example, we belong to a family. From a family we get something and we are expected to give something for that. So similarly, we may be working in a company, we work in office. So when we belong in the office, we get salary from the office and we are expected to do work. That's the way to belong to harmonious. We belong to a community, we belong to a country. So each of us belong to many larger units. And thus we have many different dharmas. For each unit that we belong to, we have a dharma over there. So if we are driving in America, we drive on one side of the road. If we go to India, we drive on the other side of the road. The specifics of dharma may vary, but we are meant to belong to whichever pole we belong in a harmonious way. And like this, if we consider there are larger and larger wholes, and then the largest whole is God, is Krishna. So when Krishna says, Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. So he is not telling that you give up dharma. The emphasis is take up the paradharma. So say if we are working in a company, and sometimes if you are working in a software company, we might be a part of 2 teams. In one team we are expected to do one thing, in another team we are expected to do another thing. And now if both team leads want us to work at the same time, what do we do at that time? That is a dharma sankat. So we are belonging to 2 holes and 2 holes are pulling us into different directions. If say there is a deadline in our workplace and we have to be there in office. At the same time, maybe our child has got into trouble in school and we are as parents are summoned to the school. Maybe child met with accident or child has got into some kind of trouble. Now, okay, should I go to school or should I stay at work? That is dharma sankat. When there are 2 dharmas pulling us in 2 different directions, so which whole do I belong to? That is something which has to be decided. And we all need to be able to decide that care. And this can be a tension. This can be a cause of tension. For those of us, say, who have come from India to America, then for us, our identity is still we are Indians. Although we are born in America, we live in America, we may have American citizenship. I have seen that Indians, they may be for 30 years in America, but they are much more interested in Indian politics than they are in American politics. Now American politics is affecting them, so they become a little more alert to it. But we all have a certain sense of belonging. Now children, if they're born here, then what happens is, they have 2 dharmas. As many times children who are born in America, they are like coconuts. What do you mean coconuts? They are brown from outside but white from inside. So what happens is that the skin is brown. So you could say genetically or genealogically or ethnically they are Indian. But psychologically, culturally, often they think like Americans. So then what do you do? Which identity do we highlight? That becomes a conflict. That's a dharma sankat. There's a term called ABCD. Have any of you heard of this? Yes, American born, confused they cease. Some people will be confused. That's a dharma sankat. What do we do? In today's world, for example, women face this competing dharmas especially high. See, one of the big emphasis of feminism is women should have a career. And it's fine. It's like women having a job is nothing against traditional culture. In the gopis used to sell butter. There's a fruit vendor over there in Krishna Lila also. But there's one dharma is okay, I want to have a job, I want to have a career, I want to have my own identity. Now other dharma is I want to be a mother, I want to take care of my children. Now these two dharmas sometimes may pull us in different directions. Now which dharma is important? What is happening is that while both dharmas may be important, biologically there's a choice is do I want to be something to someone or do I want to be everything for someone? Like if somebody just goes into a career, okay, you become a software engineer, you become this, you become that. We become like an interchangeable or replaceable unit in a larger society. Nothing bad about that. But for a child, the mother is not interchangeable or replaceable. Now, to some extent, we can apply the same thing to the father also. But specifically, nature has arranged that the mother is the primary caregiver, not just biologically, but even psychologically. Mothers are much more attuned to be able to take care of children. So now what happens is two dharmas may pull us in two different directions. So which dharma do we decide to belong to more? In the West, it has happened that more and more women choose career. And then often the propaganda comes that marriage and motherhood are like traps. And then the result of that is by the time they're 35, 40 or some 45, become very lonely and empty and they're like, what am I doing? What do I have in my life? And it's another big problem is sociologically, population is decreasing in the Western. The population would have decreased enormously unless if there had been no immigration. It's only immigration that is keeping the population balanced to some extent. Immigrants generally bear more children than the what they call the Vasks, right? Anglo-Saxon Protestants, Americans, Caucasians. So in many of the big cities in America, among the white population, the number of pets is more than the number of children. So what happens is that need to nurture is there. And we don't have a need to nurture, we don't address the need to nurture by taking care of a baby, then we get a pet. I was in the Govardhan Eco Village, and it's a place in India where there's a lot of spiritual opportunity and atmosphere for people from anywhere, but especially for Westerners. And a lot of yoga teachers come over there. They come to learn yoga, the yoga students come, the teachers come, they learn to further deepen their practice, they may bring their students. So I met one person over there, said, yes, I asked him, what do you do? He's an American person. He said, I'm a yoga teacher. I said, what? Yoga? He said, no, yoga teacher. I said, what is yoga? Yoga is yoga with dogs. I want to do everything with my dog. So actually, if you see Google, there are pictures. Like, the person will be doing yoga, stretching hand, and the dog will be stretching its paws. And the person does Shirsasana. I don't know how dog will do Shirsasana, but whatever. So there is yoga, and then there is koga. What is koga? Yeah, cats. So basically, the need to nurture is there, and that is now listed. That is directed elsewhere. So, but the point is, it's a tension is the concept of dharma and dharma sammoha. Different dharmas pulling us in different directions. That is something which is universal. Universal. We cannot avoid that. So when I was I think I started coming to America for 2014. So 2015 I came for the first time actually, 2016, 2017. So I was once in Texas. I was giving a class, and in that class one American girl asked a question. Why do religions fight among each other? And I gave an elaborate answer. And I could say, I talked about three modes, I talked about extremism, and she was quite satisfied with the answer I could see. Then after the class, I was talking with people, and then she came forward and she said, this question had been burdening me for a long time. You have relieved me. I'm so grateful. Can I give you a hug? Now, I had been told that this possibility is there. And see, the Western culture, hugging is just a normal expression of affection. That doesn't seem like that for us, certainly as a brahmachari. So now what happened for me? That as a brahmachari, obviously I have to say no. But as a teacher of Bhagavad-Gita, as a preacher, I should not discourage it. So I had talked with my spiritual guides and they said that for them, that's an expression of their appreciation and affection. We cannot reject that. So then I just look at the devotee who was with me, was a host over there, organizing the program. I just figured, please help me. So he helped me, but in the most unexpected way. He said, he's a monk. On his behalf, you can hug me. So I was thinking, I don't know what that helps. And his wife was next to him. And his wife said, I am his wife. On his behalf, you can hug me. So I told this incident to my spiritual master, Radha. He was laughing. And he said that, we cannot accept the expression of affection, but we cannot reject the affection that is being offered. So we have to find a sensitive way in which to deal in such situations. So my point is that we all have multiple identities, multiple roles, multiple dharmas we have. And often there will be a tension between them. So when Krishna says, Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja, what does he mean? He means that when two dharmas are pulling us in two different directions, should we do this or should we do that? Let us focus on Krishna. And let us think of how best can we serve Krishna in this situation. So, Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja. For Arjuna, the two dharmas that were pulling him in two different directions were, at that time, Arjuna was a Kshatriya and Arjuna was a Kuru Nandana. He was a Kuru Vancha leader. So, as a Kshatriya dharma was fight. Anybody who is an aggressor, Kshatriya are meant to be protectors. Anybody who is an aggressor, that person needs to be killed. But now he was not just, he belonged to the Kuru Vamsha, he was a Kuru leader. He was a Kuru, he had a Kula Dharma. Kula Dharma is, if we are belonging to a particular community, a particular race, a particular dynasty, a particular family, we are meant to protect the members of that. So, Kshatriya Dharma told him, fight. And Kula Dharma told him, don't fight. So, and thus he had a Dharma Sammoha. What do I do in such situations? So, now what does Krishna tell over here? That if two dharmas are pulling us in opposite directions, instead of looking here and looking there and getting confused, look upward. Look upward to see ultimately I belong to Krishna. I'm a part of Krishna, and in this particular situation, how can I best serve Krishna? How can I best serve Krishna? So there Krishna wanted that dharma be established in society, and for that purpose Arjuna needed to fight. So when Arjuna says I will fight, how did he fight? He is not saying I'm Kshatriya and therefore I am fighting. He says Karishye Vachanam Dhamma. Krishna, I will do your will. And if your will means fighting, I'll fight. So going back to the earlier example I gave, if somebody is working in a company and they have two team leads, they belong to two teams, and each team lead wants them to do the same something at the same time. What can they do? Now suppose they have access to the CEO, and the CEO, they write into them these two projects. What should I do? The CEO says, okay, you work on this project. But what about the other team? That team need to get angry with me. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishami. I'll take care of him. I'll deal with him. So the idea is that Krishna is not telling Arjuna to give up dharma. Krishna is telling Arjuna to have a higher vision of dharma, a bigger belonging, a bigger belonging. So for example, in the Mahabharata, it is said that for the larger whole, sometimes the smaller whole is sacrificed. For the sake of the family, one member may sometimes be sacrificed. For the sake of a village, one family may be sacrificed. For the sake of a country, one village may be sacrificed. Now, of course, ultimately it says, for the sake of the soul, the whole world can be sacrificed. But the idea is that there is higher dharma and lower dharma. And the highest dharma is our dharma for Krishna, belonging to Krishna. Now, having said this, so what are we discussing over here? That how does dharma work in this world? So sometimes there will be tension between dharma. Dharma basically is might is right. So, but might with virtue is right, that will be Sanskriti. That is the kind of dharma we want in society. Not that the law of the jungle. So now that brings us to the last point I'll make, that when Arjuna won the Kurukshetra war, did he win because of the knowledge of the Bhagavad-Gita or because of the knowledge of archery that he had learned throughout his life? What do you think? Sorry? Both, yes. Now both. Why both? Because the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita gave him a purpose. Okay, what am I meant to do? And the knowledge of archery gave him the tools. So we need the purpose. What am I meant to do? Why am I meant to do it? And then we need tools for doing it. So if Arjuna had not been that great an archer, he could have fallen to the opponents. Karna could have killed him. Drona could have killed him. So Abhimanyu was not that great an archer. Of course, the opponents resorted to adharma. 6 of them attacked him. But eventually he was killed. So in this world, for us, if we want to do some service, so I will close with one diagram. This is epitomized by Hanuman. And it is actually also Hanuman, like Arjuna, he's a great devotee, but he's also a great warrior. So Hanuman's folded hands, they signify bhakti. Now bhakti in one sense is the ultimate dharma. We want to belong to Krishna. So that is dharma taken to its ultimate. Hanuman, the mace that he hands in his hands, that signifies shakti. So for us to succeed in life, we need shakti and we need bhakti. If we consider 4-quadrant diagram, we need shakti and we need bhakti. When both are there, then there will be success. Now suppose somebody is asked to cook for a festival and they have bhakti. They cook in a very devotional, prayerful mood. They have nice picture of deities. The kirtan is going on. They also pray to Krishna before start cooking. But they just don't know cooking. So they have bhakti, but they don't have shakti. When they cook, Krishna will be pleased by their cooking. And only Krishna will be pleased. Isn't it? So, bhakti without shakti, there will be spiritual success, but there will be material failure. There is spiritual success, but at a material level, there won't be success. So, if we want to be successful in the material world, we need to acquire the required shakti, whichever field that might be. If somebody wants to lead kirtan, they may have a great devotional heart, but if they don't know how to sing, they may sing off tune, and Krishna will be pleased with the singing, but others will not be. So the idea is now, if there is no bhakti and no shakti, there's only failure. There's material and spiritual failure. Now, if there is shakti but no bhakti, then what will happen? Shakti, there will be material success, but there will be spiritual failure. So, now what we want is both bhakti and shakti in our life. So, through our practice of the sadhana, we do our chanting, we do come to satsang, we all try to increase bhakti. But by all this, we can also develop our shakti. Sometimes we have particular shaktis already, we can use them in Krishna's sense. Sometimes the practice of bhakti gives us clarity. Okay, these are the gifts that I have been given, these are the gifts that I can use. And then we can use those in Krishna's service. So, if you see, Arjuna's Shakti was different from Bhima's Shakti. Bhima had great physical prowess and Arjuna did not have. Now, Yudhishthir's Shakti was different from Bhima's Shakti. If you consider from the perspective of character, you cannot think of two brothers who are as different as Yudhishthir and Bhima. Yudhishthir was a Kshatriya, but he was almost like a Brahminical Kshatriya. That bend backwards but try to avoid conflict. Now, Bhima was a Kshatriya because Kshatriya squared. Just looking for an opportunity to teach others a lesson. Now, still, it was not that he was brutal. It was still Kamara, Balam Balavatam Chaham Kamara. He was not like Duryodhana. He was not out to abuse his power for selfish purposes. But still, he was different. So the point is that we all will have different kinds of Shakti. And when Krishna says, Mam Anusmara Yudhyacha. Mam Anusmara is our bhakti. Yudhyacha is with our particular skills, with our particular strengths, we fight in this world for whatever service we are called upon to, whatever dharma we are called upon to do. And when we do both, that's when we'll be successful. Srila Prabhupada's life, if we consider, he had always great bhakti. If you read his writings written in 1940s, the big Back to Godhead that he published over there, it's filled with profound realization. However, at that time, he did not have any followers. He did not have any disciples. His message did not go very far. The message was potent. When he came to America, he got followers. When he had that Shakti, then, now Shakti I'm talking in terms of the material manifestation of the Shakti. When that happened, then the preaching expanded. Not just expanded, it exploded. So this is the principle. Each one of us, when we want to serve Krishna, we want bhakti and we also want Shakti. Shakti means whatever particular service we want to do, we need to have the appropriate skill set for doing that service. And when Srila Prabhupada was asked, how will the Krishna conscious movement spread? He said, it will be by organization and intelligence. One of the questions he was asked toward the end of his life. Now, he did not say you should wake up and attend Mangal Aarti every day. He did not say that you should chant 16 hours a day. Of course, all those things are important. But if the Krishna conscious movement is to spread in the material world, we need the appropriate material skills. We need the appropriate material skills. What does material skills mean? We need to plan properly, we need to follow properly, we need to organize properly. So if we are not doing that, then we won't reach people. One of my friends, he has now become a devotee. He told me that when he was searching for his path, he wanted to, this was before the internet, 2007, 2008. Internet and emails had not become that big. So he said, they were there. He said he wrote to 25 temples, big temples in India. He either sent email, sent physical mail asking, I want to learn more about Hinduism. I want to learn more about Bhagavad-Gita. I want to learn more about Dharma. Can you tell me some things? He said, I wrote to 25 temples and I wrote to 25 churches. And he said, among the 25 temples, not even one temple responded. Not all of them were ISKCON temples. He wrote to various temples. He said, among the 25 churches, there was not even one church that did not respond. He said all of them responded within 1 week, 10 days. He said 5 of them, they send me free Bibles. And 2 of them actually sent a representative to give a Bible to me at my home. So now, in this world, might is right. So those who market themselves better will reach better, even if there's some substance is not that great. So might is right will always be a truth. Now this is not to criticize Christianity as adharma. We're just talking about a principle over here. That those who are competent, those who are at a material level, having the appropriate skills and working appropriately, they will reach more people. That's just a fact of life. So when the war started, when the Islamic rulers were attacking India, Indian kings would fight on elephants and the Muslim kings would come on chariots. Now, the elephant has a certain level of majesty, but just because you are so high up makes you also vulnerable. So if one Muslim king would shoot one arrow and the king is killed, the whole army would collapse. Shivaji Maharaj changed the complete dynamic. If you see Shivaji Maharaj, the famous king in Maharashtra, you will not see a single image of him on a chariot. He's always on horseback. So the Muslims will come on chariots. Now horses without chariots run much faster. So he was outnumbered. The strategy he used was sudden attacks, guerrilla warfare. As nowadays they call it asymmetric warfare. So it was asymmetric. He just did not have the forces. So what did he do? He used the shakti of speed. The shakti, whatever battles we need to fight, we need to acquire the right shakti. And to the extent we acquire the right shakti, to that extent we will be successful. So shakti and bhakti are both required. At the end of the Bhagavad-Gita, Krishna says, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Sanjay says actually, where there is Krishna and where there is Arjuna, there will be victory. So there will be glory. There will be opulence. So in this way, Krishna in the Gita calls all of us to actually grow in our lives in both Shakti and Bhakti. I'll summarize what I discussed today. I talked about the Gita's teachings, 3 principles, how we can apply them in our life. So I talked about, first is that there are 3 terms. The first is Prakriti. The first section I basically introduced terms. Prakriti means might is right. Now on that basic truth, we can move in 2 directions. Sanskriti means what? Anyone remembers? Yes. Might will always be right, but it is might plus virtue. So Prakriti is the rule of the jungle. In the jungle, if an animal becomes weak, animal becomes lame or blind, they just fall prey. It will just be devoured by others. But in human society, if somebody is weak, it is not survival of the fittest, it is sacrifice of the fittest. That is Sanskriti. As compared to that, Vikruti is what?
Might plus vice.
Might plus vice is right. That means, though might is right will always be a truth. But above that, we can have various truths. And then I talk about dharma means harmonious belonging. So dharma has 2 aspects. There is the individual aspect that I do my part properly. If I am driving, I follow the rules of traffic. And then there is a social part. Social part is where that I do my part rightly and I'm not pulled over because I belong to a particular community. And I'm not just allowed to go scot-free just because I belong to a privileged community. So there is individual dharma and the social dharma. So individual dharma means we make right choices. We belong harmonious. And social dharma means that the right choices will lead to the right results, so the right consequences. So the positive actions will give positive rewards. Now, adharma means the opposite. Adharma means that those who do positive get negative. And those who do negative get positive. So now, how might adharma occur? Adharma may occur when there is vikruti in society. When those in charge are not concerned about virtue, they become concerned about vice. So might becomes used in the service of vice. Then I talk about dharma sankata or dharma samuha. We belong to, because we belong to many different holes, we all may sometimes feel pulled by different holes. Like a parent may feel pulled, should I uh, continue working at home or should I go and take care of my child who is having some crisis? So basically, we all belong to multiple holes, and we could say each hole is larger than others, and the largest hole is Krishna. So that is God. So when we face dharma sankat, that means one duty is pulling us in one direction, another duty is pulling us in the opposite direction. Arjuna's Kula Dharma and Kshatriya Dharma pulled him in opposite directions. Say for today, for example, for women, their maternal and professional roles may pull them in opposite directions. For a preacher, culture may impel them to do one thing, but compassion may require them to do another thing, or sensitivity may require them to do another thing. So we pulled in different directions. So what is the solution? At such times, we need to look upwards. Look upward towards Krishna and see how best can I serve Krishna in this situation, and then act accordingly. And then lastly, we discussed that we should resolve dharma properly, and then we talked about the principle that Sanskriti has to be built on top of Prakriti. That we all will need to acquire the appropriate Shakti in our life. We discussed this diagram that there is Shakti. Shakti is not just physical strength, but the skill that is required for service, and there is Bhakti. Now, this is the best situation where there is all round success, material and spiritual success for everyone. So now, if we have Bhakti but no Shakti, we'll have spiritual success but not material success. Now, if we have neither, there will be no success at all. And there can be material success if there is Shakti, but there will be no spiritual success. So it is our responsibility to develop Bhakti by sadhana, but also a responsibility. If we want to do a service effectively, then we also need to develop the right Shakti. So seva, if you have a seva bhav, if you have a service attitude, that means Prabhupada often translates bhakti as not just devotion, but devotional service. So devotion is, seva bhav means we try to increase our bhakti and we also try to increase the Shakti which we can do our bhakti. So if you want to build a temple for Krishna, bhakti, that intention is good. We do nice kirtans, we do nice learn deity worship, but we may also need to raise funds for that. And so bhakti and Shakti, when both come together, that's when we can actually practically transform the world. And each one of us may have different Shaktis which you can use in Krishna's service. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions or comments? Yes, please.
So you're talking about the Sanskriti. How could that be applied in a corporate culture? For example, this start helping somebody who does not have character strength. That could also be leading to ineffectiveness of the organization. That you are spoon feeding somebody, and that can be so. How would you running an organization?
Good question. I didn't want to get into politics. Yeah, so this is the fundamental question of conflict between the political left and the political right. What is the idea of the political right? The right is all about, generally that those on the right are conservative, those on the left are liberal. So one way to understand this is those who are on the right are concerned with what is right in the existing structure. And those who don't fit in that structure, that's your problem. You adjust, you settle. So the right are concerned about, they see so many things are working in society, preserve that. Now the left are concerned with those who are left out by the existing system. So the right and the left both have valid concerns. Say, for example, if we have, say, consider cricket in India. Now, cricket is immensely popular, but say probably 10, 15, 20 years ago, uh, the cricket coaching academies and cricket talent scouts, they'll mostly be in the big cities. Mumbai has had a disproportionate number of players being a part of the Indian cricket team. Is it that Mumbai has more talented cricket players are born in Mumbai than anyone else? That could be one possibility. Other possibility could be that the supporting environment is much more. So now the right would say this is working. We are getting so many good cricketers coming over. But the left will say, "Oh, but all the other part of the countries are left out. We should have coaching academies there also. We should do that." So now who is right? Sometimes the right is right, sometimes the left is right. What that means is sometimes we need to consider that this is a system that is working and we can't just reject the system because some people don't fit into it. But sometimes it may be that the left is right. That no many people are left out of it. Or the people who are left out of the system, they suffer severely. So for example, now in the case of right, they focus a lot on individual responsibility. You work hard, you raise yourself up by your bootstraps. In the left, there's a lot of emphasis on social justice, social change, systemic adjustments. That so now which is required? Well, it depends. It's not that there's one absolute answer. Sometimes so now in the case of your specific question, if people are incompetent, can they become competent? Maybe, maybe not. So everybody needs a bit of a helping hand sometime or the other. And we should have an ethos where we offer each other a helping hand. But it shouldn't happen that somebody offers a helping hand and the other person expects that your hand should be there all the time for the rest of my life. Everybody eventually has to become responsible. So in general, competence is like shakti. People need to have basic competence. If people don't have competence and people don't have the commitment to develop the competence, then helping them is really not helping them. Like I think it was in Harvard, there's a big court case. There's an Indian boy, he wanted to get into medicine. And he had nearly 3.94 perfect CGPA. He didn't get it. He was from South India. So he did some kind of underhand things. And then he brought some kind of genetic connection and he claimed that he's a black. And he got invitations from all Ivy League universities. And he actually entered in, he studied for 1 year. And then he just dropped out and he wrote a book about his experience. So exposing the college. So basically, Indian and Chinese students, they sued Harvard because they found that a student with maybe 2.9 CGPA from certain communities could get in, and somebody with 3.9 CGPA wouldn't get in now. So actually, in many ways, Indian universities are much more transparent about their admission quotas or admission systems. Now, if you have got above this much percentage, this is a cutoff. So all those above will get admission, all those below will not get. But in many of the big universities in America, they don't reveal their criteria. They're very non-transparent. So now, America prided itself on being a meritocracy. That's what they say. But if merit is not there, I have a devotee friend who works in Harvard, and although the whole environment is very leftist, he says I cannot speak this publicly, but he says that when through this diversity quota students come in, they just can't cope. Like if everybody in the class has a IQ of 140 and one student has got IQ of 120, then what happens is you have to slow down everyone to fit that one person, or that person is still always struggling to catch. And then that often these people just drop out and they feel I failed in my life. Instead of going to Ivy League college, they could have gone to a middle level college and they could have actually succeeded over there. So the point is, Shakti will always be required. Now, sometimes support is needed. So, giving support cannot change the reality that competence will be required. So, if a person does not have that basic level of competence, then just creating social change is not going to correct those situations. So, that's why the broad answer would be yes, support should be given, but support should be given so that the person starts learning and growing and taking responsibility themselves. If the person either is not willing to do that or the person is just not able to do that, then maybe the way support should be offered is give that person some other role or help them, encourage them to find some other role. Okay.
Just that follow-up probably. So in society, it is different. In organization, it is different. Society, we may even the person is not able to raise him up for the competence, we may still help out.
Yeah.
But in organization, it's not like that.
It works everywhere also. Society also, to what extent can you do it? Many countries now, especially, which is that? There are some countries where China is facing this problem, Japan is facing this problem. They will have a very large older population and the younger population is not there at all. So there are very few people who are wealth creators and there are a large number of people who are dependent on their version of social security or whatever. So how much can society support eventually? I think in Italy, in two countries, I think Italy and Poland, they have arranged that actually, like any couple who has more than two children, then the Pope will personally baptize their child. They have that much of a crisis over there. Mm. So they have financial incentives that the government provides some support. But the thing is that society can support only up to a particular point. So I think the extent of support will differ from the particular organization that one is part of. So especially if one is in a very competitive field. Say for example, if somebody in the military, if you don't have competence, you will be killed, you will cause other people to die. So if somebody is in some other field where it's not so high stakes, then okay, then more support can be given. So I think which fold you belong to also will make a difference. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. You said, Prabhuji, when we are in the two dharmas in opposite direction, we need to look up to the Lord Krishna.
Correct.
But in that situation, our mind will not go there. Our mind will go these two situations one.
Correct.
How we can look up?
Well, you have to get frustrated looking in two directions. So that is one way. The other is we have some devotees who guide us, somebody who is looking upward and they help us look upward. So see, ultimately, every one of us has to come to terms with the finiteness of the human condition. That means that we are all finite beings and we cannot do everything that we like. We cannot even do many things that we want to do. So we have to make choices. And the idea is that ultimately, when we look up, it is not just in frustration. We're out of frustration, but eventually it is with the understanding that God has a part for me to play. But that does not mean I have to do the whole thing. Now, I have a part to play and I'm meant to play my part as well as I can. But then, when we say surrender, depend on Krishna, that doesn't mean we don't play our part. It means I will play my part, but that doesn't mean I have to control everything and I have to make everything else. So that's where sometimes we have to decide that this, if we connect with Krishna, we may be able to understand the Dhammi Buddhi Yogam, that Krishna says, that we will get a greater sense of clarity or confidence. That, okay, this is the part I should play right now, I should prioritize right now. Other things will be taken care of afterwards. Okay? I'll take care later, or Krishna will take care of, things will work out. So that understanding that I am a part of a team. When you say, often this Mamai Vamsho Jiva Loke Jivuta Sanatana, we use that as a shloka to beat Mayavadis. The philosophical implication is that the eternal parts of Krishna, we won't become one with Krishna. But its psychological implication is that if we are always parts of Krishna, that means we will always have parts in Krishna's plan. Krishna will always have a part to play for us. Say somebody like in a cricket team, and now they will always, if they are in the cricket team of India, they will have a part in the team. Now, what is that part? Are they wicket keepers, fast bowlers, medium pacers, spin bowler, an attacking batsman, middle order batsman, whatever? That will vary. But they have a part. So we are always on Team Krishna. We will always have a part. Now, which part it may be, that may vary. Sometimes you may have to accept that this part I can no longer play. And I focus on this part and I will play this part. So, any last question before we start? Thank you very much.